Welcome to the deep dive. Think of us as your secret weapon for tackling complex stuff. We try to cut through the noise, get to the crucial bits, without you needing to wade through dense manuals. And that's exactly what we're doing today. We are diving into something really vital for anyone on two wheels. It's a guide called Motorcycle Driver Questions and Answers with Documentation. It's this incredibly thorough resource put together by Richie's Foss, seriously packed with need-to-know info, whether you're just starting out or you've been riding for years. So our mission here today is to pull out the absolute key takeaways from this guide. Think of it as your shortcut to being properly informed. We'll look at practical tips, clear up some common misunderstandings, and we'll definitely point out where the info gets a bit surprising, or maybe even contradicts itself. Prepare for some real aha moments, the kind that could genuinely make a difference out there on the road.
Exactly. And what's interesting is we're not just, reading off a list. We're looking at how these answers are presented and, really importantly, how they're backed up by the documents. Or sometimes, how they're not quite backed up. The goal is to give you a more critical understanding, not just memorizing answers.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with something absolutely fundamental to get. What you wear. Because, let's face it, it's way more than just looking the part. So first up, something that catches riders out, especially when it gets warm. The guide's really firm on this. Riding in summer, short pants are a definite no-go. Why so strict?
It's all about safety, pure and simple. The documentation makes it crystal clear. Even a seemingly minor fall, if you're in shorts, can lead to really severe injuries. We're talking serious road rash, damage. Long pants, even in the heat, they're your first layer of protection for your skin. It's not just a suggestion, it's fundamental.
Right. And beyond just pants, if we think bigger picture what really protects you in a crash, the guide points straight at two things: appropriate clothing and a proper helmet.
Absolutely. These aren't optional extras. They are your personal safety equipment. They're designed to take the impact, to minimize harm. Things like, the accelerator or the light switch. Those are controls, not gear that protects you.
Makes sense. So let's zero in on the helmet then. Probably the single most critical piece. When you're buying one, what are the main things to look for?
Two key things, according to the guide. First, it needs to be an approved type. That means it meets recognized safety standards. Second, and this is crucial, it has to fit your head properly without squeezing. Too loose, it could shift or even come off in an impact. Too tight, it's uncomfortable, distracting. It can mess with your focus. That fit is everything for it to work right.
And this is where maintenance becomes so important. What if your helmet gets a small crack? Or the visor is badly scratched up?
You just can't risk it. A small crack means the helmet structure is weakened. It won't absorb impact like it should anymore. It's essentially useless for protection. So the guide says, and it's absolutely right, replace it before you ride again. Same logic for a badly scratched visor. It kills your visibility, especially at night. That's incredibly dangerous. Replace the visor right away.
Okay, shifting gears a bit to visibility. The guide hammers this point home. Bikes should have their lights on, even during the day. Why is that considered so essential?
It really boils down to being seen. Motorcycles are just smaller, right? They can easily get lost in the visual clutter or disappear into a car's blind spot. Having your lights on, even in bright daylight, makes you stand out significantly more. It increases your presence, makes it less likely other drivers will just, not see you.
This brings up an interesting little quirk in the guide regarding headlight color. There seems to be some conflicting info here. Some sources cited say the low beam is orange, but another says it's white. What's the deal?
Yeah, that's a good example of where you, the rider, need to apply some common sense and know the current rules. Your main low-beam headlight, it's almost universally white. That's what lights up the road. Orange lights are generally for turn signals, maybe some specific daytime running lights on certain models, but not the main beam you rely on for seeing. Always stick to standard safety regulations and what's legal where you ride.
Good clarification.
Yeah.
So beyond lights, what else helps make a rider more visible?
The guide specifically calls out reflective clothing and white helmets. It's all about contrast. Reflective gear helps you pop in low light, obviously, but even during the day. And a white helmet. It's just way more noticeable than a black one, especially against, say, a dark road or trees. The guide actually flags a black helmet as something that won't help your visibility during the day.
All right, let's move from personal gear to keeping the bike itself in safe shape. Tires, they're your only link to the road. What's the core thing to know about how they perform?
It's pretty straightforward. Tires work best when they're warm. The rubber compounds need a bit of heat to get up to their optimal grip level. That's why you always need to be a bit more cautious right at the start of a ride before they've warmed up.
And what about tire pressure? The guide's advice is clear. Don't mess with it because of the weather. Stick to the recommended pressure and always measure it when the tires are cold. How often should we be checking that?
The recommendation is once a week, and it's vital. Underinflated tires handle poorly, they wear unevenly, and worst case, they can even blow out. Overinflated tires, they reduce your grip. So yeah, consistency in checking weekly is key. And that minimum tread depth, 1 millimeter, honestly, on a bike, especially in the wet, you want more than the bare minimum.
Now, here's a really important point where the sources clash, and it sounds potentially dangerous. The guide says for tube tires, you need to replace the inner tubes when you replace the tires, okay? But a Honda manual specifically says never put an inner tube in a tubeless tire because it might overheat and burst. That sounds serious.
It is serious, and this highlights why knowing your specific bike and tires is critical. The advice about replacing tubes with tires, that applies if your bike came with tube tires. If you have tubeless tires on tubeless rims, you absolutely should not install an inner tube unless the tire itself is specifically marked as suitable for tube type application. The risk of overheating and sudden failure is very real. Always, always check your owner's manual and the tire manufacturer's specs.
Okay, really good to know. Let's talk chain, oil, engine stuff. Your drive chain, how much slack should it have?
The guide recommends about 2 to 3 centimeters of vertical movement measured halfway between the sprockets. That slack is necessary. Too tight and it puts stress on everything. Too loose, it could jump off the sprocket or, worse, lock up the rear wheel, which means instant loss of control. And keeping it lubricated regularly is just as important, reduces wear, reduces heat.
And engine oil. The guide says use the type the manufacturer recommends. Makes sense. But then it gives conflicting info on change frequency. Some sources say every 1,000 kilometers, or if it overheats, while others mention a service light, maybe around 6,000 kilometers.
Yeah, that discrepancy probably comes down to older versus newer bikes or maybe different types of use. For most modern bikes, 1,000 kilometers would be extremely frequent. The 6,000 kilometer mark, or whatever your specific bike's manual says, is likely much closer. Definitely use the right type of oil the manufacturer specifies, but for the schedule, your owner's manual is the definitive source. The one thing that's always good advice, though, check the oil level before every ride. It's simple, takes seconds, prevents huge problems.
Good habit. Moving to brakes and suspension. What checks are definitely not for the average home mechanic? What needs a pro?
Okay, so checking the actual functional performance of your brakes, your suspension, and even the overall engine operation that needs a proper licensed workshop. You can check basics like fluid levels or maybe brake pad wear visually. But testing if the system performs correctly under load, that takes specialized tools and know-how. If your brakes feel off, if they're not effective, or if you see oil leaking from your shocks, which really messes with handling and can contaminate your brakes, don't hesitate. Get it to a professional shop immediately. These systems are literally life or death.
Right. We found another point of potential confusion, too. Batteries. The guide mentions checking fluid levels periodically and topping up with distilled water. But modern Honda manuals say their batteries are maintenance-free, no checks needed.
Yeah, classic example of older tech versus newer tech. Many, probably most, modern motorcycle batteries are sealed, maintenance-free types. You don't check or add fluid. The advice about checking fluid and adding distilled water, that's generally for older style, unsealed lead-acid batteries. It's also possible the question in the guide might be accidentally confusing battery fluid with engine coolant. Coolant does need checking and sometimes topping up with distilled water. So know your battery type, know your cooling system, check the manual.
Okay, let's switch focus now to actually being on the road. Rules, safe practices, speed limits are always a hot topic. And right off the bat, we hit a big contradiction. For a 75cc bike on a rural road, the guide's correct answer is 80 kilometers. But the documentation it cites says the limit is actually 70 kilometers.
That's a clear red flag. When you see official sources disagreeing on something like a speed limit, the only safe and legal approach is to stick to the lower limit, or better yet, verify with the absolute latest traffic regulations for your area. Generally, smaller bikes have lower limits, especially on faster roads. Relying on potentially outdated or incorrect info is risky.
Definitely. Now, one of the most critical safety lessons, especially for motorcyclists, blind spots. The guide consistently warns about avoiding positions where car mirrors won't see you, especially right behind big trucks.
This is absolutely non-negotiable. Bikes are small, they vanish in blind spots. If you're behind a big vehicle, you've got two safe options. Either overtake it safely when you can, or hang back far enough so you can actually see around it, and more importantly, the driver can potentially see you. Don't linger in that invisible zone. And if someone's tailgating you, the advice is to gently slow down and increase the space ahead of you. Gives you more breathing room, more time to react.
Speaking of positioning, here's another point where the guide's answer seems off. Potentially dangerously so. It suggests the safest spot off a main road is very far ahead or very far behind other cars. But the documents imply that makes you less visible.
Right. This needs careful clarification. Being very far away, either ahead or behind, can actually make you less noticeable. You become an outlier, not part of the immediate traffic flow drivers are scanning. The generally accepted safest position is one where you maintain good visibility of others and, crucially, where they can easily see you. Usually that means a safe following distance within the traffic flow, actively managing your lane position to stay out of blind spots. Visibility is paramount. Don't isolate yourself unnecessarily.
Makes much more sense. Let's talk braking. What's the ideal split between front and rear brakes for the best stop?
The guide suggests around 75% front, 25% rear, and that reflects basic physics when you brake. Weight shifts forward, making the front brake much more effective. The absolute key for the quickest stop, though, is that neither wheel should lock up. You want smooth, progressive braking right up to the edge of traction. Use both brakes together, but really focus on modulating that front brake. That's for good conditions. In the wet. Still use both, but be even gentler, more progressive.
Got it. Turning and maneuvering now. For an open turn, the guide recommends tracing the widest possible curve, staying in your lane at a steady speed. And just before you make any move sideways, like turning or pulling out, what's that final crucial check?
It's that over-the-shoulder check, the lifesaver glance, as writers call it. Always. Mirrors are great, but they have blind spots. A quick turn of the head confirms nothing's lurking there. It's absolutely vital before, say, turning right. You take that quick look over your right shoulder just before you commit to the turn.
Okay, hazard awareness. If you come across an oil spill on the road, what's the recommended way to handle it?
The technique is steady throttle closed, handlebars straight, and just roll through it smoothly. No sudden braking, no sudden acceleration, no sudden steering inputs. Any abrupt action on a slippery surface is asking for trouble. And that caution applies to other hazards too, right? Double your following distance in rain. Slow way down for gravel, and if you see a ball roll into the road, hit the brakes. Assume a child is right behind it.
Now, we found a piece of advice in the guide that is just shockingly bad and dangerous. We absolutely have to correct this. It says, if you're blinded by oncoming headlights at night, the correct answer is to close your eyes.
Okay, let me be absolutely clear. That is completely wrong and incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Never, ever close your eyes while operating a motorcycle. That's madness. The actual safe procedure, confirmed by reliable sources, is to slow down, make sure you're on low beams, and focus on the right edge of the road, like the white line, to guide yourself until the vehicle passes. Maintain control, maintain vision. That advice in the guide is a serious, potentially fatal error.
Wow. Okay. Glad we caught that. What about other tough conditions? The guide mentions black ice, that invisible hazard, describes it as a cold, wet-looking road, but you don't hear tire noise. What's the protocol?
Black ice is treacherous precisely because you often don't see it. If you suspect that the conditions are right, the road looks wet but isn't splashing, no tire noise, the guide correctly advises, slow down immediately. Drastically reduce your speed. That's the primary life-saving action. And yeah, in general, cold weather, wear the right gear. Being cold makes you lose focus, slows your reactions. It's a safety issue.
And the opposite hot weather. The guide notes that really hot asphalt can soften, making it slippery, reducing grip, affecting braking.
Yes, that's a real thing. Hot, soft tarmac won't offer the same traction. Your braking distance might increase. It's also worth remembering that white road markings, like crosswalks or lines, get notoriously slippery, especially when wet. Much more so than, say, yellow anti-slip markings mentioned. So hot or cold, wet or dry, always be mindful of how the road surface itself might be affecting your bike's grip.
Okay, let's talk about sharing the ride. Passengers. The guide stresses they should sit close, mirror your movements, feet on pegs, holding your waist or the grab handle, and crucially, lean with you in corners.
Yeah, a passenger isn't just cargo, they actively affect the bike's handling. Their weight changes the center of gravity, their movements matter. Leaning together in turns is essential for stability. And just like the driver, they absolutely 100% need to wear a helmet, no question. Plus, your bike needs to be set up for proper seat for 2, passenger foot pegs, and it needs to be registered for carrying a passenger.
What about carrying luggage instead of a person? Guide says place the load low and close to the bike's center of gravity and never exceed the manufacturer's load limit. Whose ticket is it if the bike's overloaded?
The driver. Always the driver's responsibility. Overloading messes with everything: handling, braking, suspension. It makes the bike unstable and unsafe. So, pack smart, stay within limits, and check if your bike is even rated for a trunk or basket before you add one, because that extra weight, especially high up or far back, definitely impacts how the bike stops and handles.
Now, speaking of loading, we found another piece of advice in the guide's correct answers that is just fundamentally wrong and dangerous. It says that a load must not be securely fastened.
Okay, stop right there. That is another critical, dangerous error that needs immediate correction. All cargo, every single item you carry on a motorcycle, must be securely fastened, period. An unsecured load is a recipe for disaster. It can shift, fall off, tangle in the wheel, destabilize the bike. It's incredibly dangerous for you and everyone else on the road. Secure your load properly, always.
Good grief. Okay, what about towing things or adding sidecars?
The guide and general motorcycle practice is very clear on this. No, motorcycles aren't designed to tow trailers. And attaching side baskets or sidecars drastically alters the handling dynamics in ways most riders aren't prepared for. The documentation explicitly says these are not allowed as they cause serious handling problems. Towing with wheels on the ground can even damage the transmission. It just fundamentally compromises the bike's stability and control.
All right, last section. Emergencies, legal stuff. Let's say you have a minor fall or a very small collision. What's the first thing you should do, according to the guide?
Even if you feel okay and the bike looks okay, you must do a thorough check. Look for leaks, fuel, oil, coolant. Check for loose parts, bent levers, handlebars misaligned. The Honda manual mentioned actually recommends turning off the ignition, doing a full visual check, checking controls, brakes, wheels. And even if it seems okay to ride slowly, get it to a certified workshop afterwards for a proper inspection. There could be hidden damage.
Makes sense. What about the paperwork you need to have with you?
Your essentials are your valid driving license for the motorcycle class, the bike's registration document, proof of insurance, and any required tax sticker or proof of payment. Basic legal necessities.
And in the awful event of an accident where your passenger is injured, what's the absolute #1 thing you should not do?
Do not remove their helmet, ever, unless you are specifically trained in emergency medical response for potential spinal injuries. Removing a helmet improperly can cause catastrophic, permanent damage if there's a neck or spine injury. Leave it to the professionals.
Okay. What about that red kill switch on the handlebar? What is that meant to be used?
That's purely for emergencies. If you crash, if the throttle gets stuck open, something where you need to cut the engine immediately, that's its sole purpose. And related to emergencies caused by distraction, the guide confirms no headphones connected to music players while riding. And use your mobile phone only when you are safely stopped off the road.
What about penalties? The guide mentions consequences for things like pollution or excessive noise.
Yeah, they're taken seriously. Exceeding legal limits for emissions or noise can result in fines and, importantly, immediate removal of the bike's registration documents, basically taking it off the road until it's fixed and re-inspected. Some sources also mention potential license suspension, especially linking noise to dangerous driving, which itself carries heavy penalties like fines and temporary loss of both license and registration. The message is clear. Modifying your bike illegally or riding recklessly has significant consequences, primarily because it endangers yourself and others.
Wow, okay. We have definitely covered a lot of ground today, from the finer points of helmet fit to the critical mechanics of your bike and navigating the road safely. This deep dive into a Socarfos guide really shows that safe riding isn't just about memorizing rules, is it? It's about informed choices, constant awareness.
And being critical of the information you receive. We found some really useful stuff, cleared up some confusing bits, but also, crucially, flagged some advice that was incomplete or even dangerously wrong. The aim wasn't just to inform you, but to make you critically aware, especially about those points where getting it wrong could have severe consequences.
Absolutely. So as you head out there, here's something to think about. Beyond the official rules, what's one piece of, let's call it unwritten wisdom, something only experience teaches that you feel is key to truly staying safe on a motorcycle? And maybe, how can we all get better at sharing that kind of hard-won knowledge to help keep everyone safer on the road? Something to ponder.